Welcome back. This is Unit 2, Mod 6. We're continuing today looking at family stress theory, and hopefully by now you should have read the McCubbin and Patterson article, which will introduce the double ABCX and the FAR models, which we are going to be looking at today. So let's jump into family stress theory part 2. First, we'll be looking at the double ABCX model of family stress. So just very quickly an overview. Looking at the original ABCX model, the focus was only on pre-crisis variables. There was a line of thought that suggested that post-crisis variables were also important, and thus the double ABCX model was created. And so you can see from this model that the ABCX model are changed to a lowercase ABCX to represent the pre-crisis phase, and that phase is very similar to Hill's original ABCX model that we talked about in the last module, so we won't run through all of that again. However, what you do see in this module, is post-crisis variable and the inclusion of time. And so we're going to look at that. The double A factor is going to be defined as pileup. Pileup is going to refer to stressor pileup in the family system. That stressor events don't tend to happen one at a time, that they're continually piling up upon each other. There are unresolved aspects of the initial stressor event. There are changes that occur in regard to that, and there are changes that occur regardless of that stressor event. And there are constant and consistent consequences that arise from the system's effort to cope with whatever the initial stressor event was. So pile up, the double A factor. The double B factor are the family's resources, both the existing resources and new resources. Existing resources are going to be those that are already available to the system and that minimize the impact of the initial stressor. So they're not just going to tap into resource, use those resource, and then either be in crisis or not. There's going to be a continuation post-crisis of using these existing resources, the capacity to use those resources, and minimize the impact of that initial stressor. There will also be new resources that are created through this whole process. There will be coping resources that are going to be strengthened or developed in response to the initial stressor and the pileup that has come from that stressor event. And again, those could be individual personal resources, resources of the family system, and even social support types of resources. So again, not much different than the original model, except for we understand that families are still capable to utilize resources post-crisis as well. The double C factor is the perception, still the perception, right? It's the perception of the initial stressor, yes, but also the perception of the degree of stress or the crisis, not just the perception of the stress and the related hardships, but also the perception of the meanings that are attached to the entire family situation. So we're not just perceiving the initial stressor event. Now we're perceiving the stressor event and how we utilized resources and gave meaning to that event and the degree to which we felt stress, and we have a continual perception of all of it moving forward. This factor is going to involve things like religious beliefs, redefining or reframing the situation, from stress into solvability, and it's going to give meaning to the entire situation. We're going to begin to understand everything that is going on together, rather than just focusing on whatever that initial stressor event is. The double X factor, different than crisis, is called adaptation. So this is going to include our original response to the stress, whatever that stress was, and going to include all subsequent change or adaptation. And that adaptation is going to happen on a spectrum as well. There, that spectrum, the degree of adaptation, ranges from maladaptation, not really adapting well at all, to bonadaptation, adapting well, changing well, moving forward. Adaptation is desirable. It's a desirable outcome of a crisis or stressful state. We want to see family systems change. We want to see them adapt. We want to see them move past or move through that initial stressor event and through crisis, right? Adaptation is desirable in family systems. We don't want them to stay the same, because if they stay the same, then the potential for similar stressor events to lead to crisis again is still there. So adaptation is the degree to which the system alters or changes its internal functioning and its external reality to achieve system environment fit. It's going to be in this new normal. Think about it this way, just really right in 2020, 2021, right in our wheelhouse. Global pandemic has changed the way family systems are operating, and we have seen family systems adapting to this stressor event, and we want that adaptation to be positive. We've changed internal functioning, we've changed reality to fit into the environment well, because we want to still be successful as family systems. So all of this is going to be achieved through system demands that are met by resources from the environment and environmental demands that are met through the system resources, meaning the family system is continually interacting with and impacting systems outside of itself, and those same systems are continually interacting with and impacting the family system. And those interactions between systems are how we change. They influence the degree to which we adapt. So again, bonadaptation, successful adaptation is going to look like this. Family and system integrity is going to be strong. Family systems who bonadapt or who adapt well are going to develop their individual system members. They're going to be enhanced as an entire unit, as an entire system. They're going to develop. They're going to have family independence. They're going to be able to thrive, and they're going to have control of environmental influence. They're going to be able to kind of dictate those system interactions. Maladaptation is the exact opposite of that. Family system integrity deteriorates. Member development and family system development are not enhanced. There's a loss of family independence and a loss of control, environmental influence. There's two phases in the double ABCX model, adjustment and adaptation. We've talked a lot about adaptation already, but let's think about how these two might differ. Adjustment is going to be defined as minor adjustments in established patterns of interaction and structure. Okay, so these are going to be the little minor tweaks that we're making along the way to maintain balance and to deal daily with um, that stress and that crisis. Coping in the adjustment phase is going to look like avoidance or elimination or assimilation, things like that. Adaptation is going to be more long-term. So when short-term adjustments don't work, families deplete their resources, family interactions often restructure and reconsolidate. So we're going to adjust up to a time, and then when those are no longer working to successfully deal or cope with the stress, we are going to adapt. We're going to change. Coping in this phase looks like synergy or interfacing or compromising, those types of things. Okay, well, that's the double ABCX model. Let's move on to the Family Adjustment and Adaptation Response model, the FAR model. This model looks a little bit different. You can see still some of the key words that we have been using in the previous two models, the ABCX, the double ABCX. You can see demands and meanings, capability, you even see the word crisis there. And we also see adjustment and adaptation there as well. Here's a quick overview of the FAR model. There's a focus on active processes families engage in to balance family demands and family capabilities as these interact with family meaning to arrive at a level of family adjustment or adaptation. I think the key there is active process and balance, right? We're actively, as family systems, we are actively going through processes that engage us in trying to maintain balance as a family system. We're balancing the demands, the stressors, the hardships with the capabilities, our resources and ability to cope. So family demands would be defined as including normative and non-normative stressors, things that we've already defined, discrete events of change, ongoing family strains, daily hassles of life. Many of these things we would consider to be risk factors. On the other end of that scale are capabilities. These are the tangible and psychosocial resources of the family. What does the family have, right? It's also the family's coping behavior. What does the family do? These are parallel to protective factors. So there's a constant process of maintaining balance between the demand and the capability of the family system. There are sources of family demands and family capabilities that are the same, right? Individual family members can be a source of family demand, but also a source of family capability. The family system as a unit, a source of demand, a source of capability. And the community, or those external types of things, can be a source of family demand or a source of family capability. This is a little different than how these things were explained in the ABCX and the double ABCX, where the individual, the family system, and the community support were all seen as resources. Well, the FAR model suggests, well, maybe those things are also sources of family stress, right? Family stress and hardship. So there's three levels of family meaning in the FAR model. Situational meanings, the family's basic appraisal of their demands and capabilities. So how does a family see the demands, and how does the family see the capabilities, their resources and coping behaviors? How do they appraise that in any given situation? Then the second level is their identity as a family. How does the family see themselves internally as a unit? And so this is kind of an introspective look that the family system has of itself. Who are we as a family? And then the third level of family meaning is worldview. This is how the family sees their relationships with systems outside of the family. So work systems, medical systems, school, politics, all of those types of different systems. And so family meaning is more than just about how do we perceive the situation. That's part of it, but family meaning also plays into how do we view ourselves and how do we view ourselves in interaction with other systems. Crisis, which is right in the middle of that FAR model, is going to be defined as perceived demands exceeding perceived capabilities and imbalance persisting. And when that happens, there's disorganization in the family system, it's disrupted, disequilibrium, there's no balance. And so in order to deal with crisis, families will again either have to adjust or adapt. There's a continuity or discontinuity in the family's trajectory. They're either going to have what we call regenerative power. We used the term bond adaptation in the double ABCX, or vulnerability, the term maladaptation in the double ABCX. And throughout the life course of the family system, the FAR model suggests that it's a continual process of trying to find balance, maintain equilibrium between the demands, stressor events, and the capabilities, the resources, and coping of that family system. Okay, you have now been introduced thoroughly to family stress theory, and that hopefully gives us a background and an idea of how we might address trauma in the families that we are dealing with. Understand that it can be these individual stressor events, they can be normal, they can be non-normal, and they can lead to bigger situational events and crisis within that family system. So we're going to move from theory into the next modules and start really pulling apart ideas of family trauma and what those are. Go do your journal for Mod 6, and I'll see you back for Mod 7.